each of you here tonight. This is the only meeting that we'll have during the month of October. It's our combined meeting. And we are glad to have each of you here tonight. At this time, I'm going to ask Chelsea Burkhart, who is a student of Walhalla High School, to come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Chelsea is actually running a few minutes late, so I'm going to have Bradley Peterson in her place, who is going to,
Okay.
who is actually going to lead us.
All right, if you'll stand with me.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now, if you will join me in a moment of silence, this is something we do before each meeting begins. And if you would like to share that moment with us, I invite you to. Thank you. And board members each received an agenda for tonight's meeting. So I will ask at this time if anyone had any changes, any additions, anything they saw on it. All right, then if there are none, then we will approve with no objections the agenda for the night of October 16th, 2023 work session and regular meeting. And at this time, we have school highlights, and we have Scott Dixon here from Walhalla Middle School and Jennifer Crawford here from Walhalla High School. So I don't know who's doing what, but we welcome you.
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening, board members. We appreciate you having us tonight and giving us this opportunity to kind of brag on ourselves a little bit. You know, report cards, school report cards came out, and I'm sure we've all looked at those a little bit and everything. Last year, Walhalla Middle School was on the excellent list. This year, we're a couple of points short of excellent. We can look at our data and we know why. And of course, we're going to do those things throughout the year to try to get back to that excellent rating. But there are a lot of things that we do are excellent that's not on a report card anywhere. There are a lot of things that are not quantitative data, it's qualitative data. And sometimes the qualitative part gets left out of a lot of things. If you go to a mission statement, you don't see a lot of things on a mission statement that are quantitative. A lot of things are qualitative. So we leave that data piece out sometimes. So we like to brag on ourselves for several things. One thing last year is we've really worked hard with our Unified Champions group that works with our Special Olympics. Now, go back to the COVID year when Special Olympics got canceled. And, you know, we didn't know what to do. We were out of school for that whole spring from March 13th on. The next year we came back and everything was closed down a lot and Special Olympics were canceled again. But we found a way to do it ourselves in our own site. We're not even sure we allowed specific parents to come to it because we were still social distancing and everything. So we had a lot of rules and regulations, but we went ahead and did it anyway, and it was a big hit. So luckily we kept doing it, and then last year Southern Wesleyan opened up for us to be able to go back to a place and compete. So we like that. So what we do with Unified Champions is a club that we have at the school, and it kind of explains a little bit what a Unified Champion is and a national banner recognition. And we received that, but if you can read through that and kind of see what it is, it just kind of explains what Unified Champions is. And then there are 10 different, missing slide, where'd it go? Well, there are 10 different things within the mission of the Unified Champion organization. Inclusion is basically what we're trying to do, is include all of our students involved with stuff. And you can look through the 10 steps there. The first 4, we offered, you can count your stuff throughout your PE classes as well. So we have some, our kids are mainstreamed into PE classes, and we do little basketball tournaments with them. We do the Special Olympics, and we do some club sports in the springtime, different things outside. Just looking through some of these highlight points here, and I can't see it anymore. I have to look here. I'm learning to take my glasses wherever I go now. I need to learn that. The PE classes, of course, meet daily. We have an adult, two people who are certified in the building with the Unified Champions as coaches and whatever. That's Miss Lawler, whose class is in the functional self-contained class, and Miss Wilbur, who is a 7th grade social studies teacher, and they both are really active in doing this stuff. And then one of the things we do is we have pep rallies, and on Special Olympics, we have a pep rally for our Special Olympic kids. That morning, we have a little clap out where they get to walk the halls, and we clap out as they leave to go to the event. And it's real nice. We have the band lead them down the hallway. Cheerleaders are there, and all these kids have service learners with them as well. And the service learners are kind of like a mentor or a shadow, and it's a great program with that. Some of the other things we do, within the Unified Champions, we have officers. We have a club. It's a regular club like a beta club or student council. And we have officers, and each of those officers have a mirror of a student who has a disability that mirrors that. So we have a president, we have a mirror president. So they're both co-presidents with our club. And they all make decisions and try to figure out things we're going to do. Dr. Evering has also come on board this year to help out with it, so we appreciate her coming in as well. Some of the things we've done is we had a disability awareness day where we did some things in an assembly, and some of the teachers stood up and talked about disabilities they had coming through school and shared it. We've had a couple other programs that we've done throughout the years, but we just kind of started documenting. This is part of Unified Champions and specifically listed with our Unified Champions group. They meet once a month, the club does, and again, I said Dr. Evering came on. I'm going to go to the next slide. Yep, and then we talked about the engagement activities that we've done throughout the years, and one of the biggest things that we do is we're starting to fundraise for it a little bit. We do some things to help pay for some of these things, and that's a unified thing between the two people. What it does is it creates an inclusion of everybody feeling accepted, and that falls in line with several of our vision statements on our webpage and things that we believe, with kids being able to be to school, come safe and feel welcome and feel accepted. And, you can see it at lunch duty, how this is working. We have a student, he comes out about every day and grabs a ball, and he kind of plays with the ball. And another student just a few weeks ago walked up and said, "Can I play with that ball?" And he said, "Yes," hand to him. And the student said, "You want to come play too?" I was like, whoa, that was right in front of me. It was just great that they said, "Come on, you can play too." And it wasn't that they were going to play, shirts and skins basketball hardcore. They were just tossing the ball around and volleyball and stuff like that. It's hardcore, nothing. It was just a simple little, let's go play ball and toss it to each other. And we see that a lot at our school. So if you want to talk about some things that are excellent, the way our kids are treating each other is pretty excellent. And we appreciate the fact that it has. But if you look at one thing, though, to brag on us, 2% of the nation, 2% of the Unified Champion schools in the nation earned the National Banner Award. We earned it for this year. 1 out of 8 schools in South Carolina, we were the only school in the upstate. I think Walhalla Elementary may have had this a year ago, or Walhalla Elementary has been involved. Now, some other schools in the district may have had this same recognition, but this is a first for us, so we're going to celebrate it and be excited about it. But just kind of look through some of the pictures from our Special Olympics last year. We have our service learners who go to the classrooms daily. We have about 60 or 70 kids who are service learners throughout the year, about 35 a semester roughly, and they go into the classrooms, they do some one-on-one. If you go and observe classes, you see them working with kids counting money and things like that, so it's really good. And you can see some of our people there from last year that helped us earn this award. But just treating everybody kindly and everything is what it comes down to. And it just kind of comes back to a quote in the movie Radio with Ed Harris playing Coach Jones. And you can see, but the truth is, we're not the ones been teaching radio. Radio is the one been teaching us because of the way he treats us all the time, the way we wish to treat each other even part of the time. And that's kind of one of the missions with whole of this Unified Champions is to encourage kids to be accepting of everyone, use inclusion for everything, And you see it all the time in Walhalla Middle School. It's a big plus. It's a thing we're very excellent with. So we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Crawford, and I have the privilege of being the principal at Walhalla High School. I think Mr. Dixon did an excellent job of starting off and just explaining that, you know, teaching and learning is what we do on a daily basis, is why schools exist, but the education of students is so much more than just the teaching and the learning that happens in the classroom. And so I appreciate the opportunity to be able to come in and showcase and highlight some of the excellent students and organizations that we have specifically at Walhalla. So I have brought with me Miss Amy Welch, who is our sponsor of our DECA organization, and two students, Riley Peterson, who is president of our organization, and Miss Chelsea Burkhart. Y'all come on up. And before I let them speak, she doesn't know I'm doing this, so Miss Chelsea Burkhart is actually one of 7 girls that competed at the South Carolina State Swim Championship this past weekend. And Chelsea placed second in the 200-meter freestyle and won her second straight state championship in the 500 freestyle. So please join me in congratulating. We're so excited for her and how she represents Walhalla. So congratulations to you, Chelsea. And then along with Chelsea, like I said, we also have president of our DECA organization, which is Miss Riley Peterson. Our officer team is made up of juniors and seniors. And I'm going to have them just share a little bit about what DECA is, some of the great things that they've already accomplished, and then some going on. Oh, there we go. Okay. And I'll hand it over to you. Okay. All right.
All right, so we always get asked, what is DECA? And so DECA is a career and technical student organization, and we like to talk in acronyms. So we commonly refer to those as a CTSO. And these are for students who are interested in careers in business, marketing, finance, entrepreneurship, and management, business management. I always miss one. And I usually always kind of correlate that to, like, most people always know what FFA is. Like, do you know what FFA is? And they say, yes. Okay, I'm like, all right, well, DECA is just like FFA in a sense, but it's for students who are interested in business instead of agriculture. And so we allow students to have the opportunity to take what they learn in the classroom and then apply it in career-based competitions. So it is not a club. It is a co-curricular organization where they take what they learn in my personal finance class, my entrepreneurship class, or if they have the ability to take marketing or one of the business classes offered at the Career Center, then they can apply what they learn in those courses in the career-based competitions. So I'm going to show you a video so you can see for yourself kind of what it looks like from a student perspective to be involved in DECA.
DECA is different. It helps you discover and explore different career passions and aspirations. DECA prepares emerging leaders and entrepreneurs to enter their futures. When I put on my DECA blazer, I feel a sense of confidence, professionalism, and strength. DECA provides a lasting difference beyond high school, into college, and your career. What makes DECA different is the ability to apply the skills that you learn to any career. DECA has it all. Through our competitive event experiences and numerous leadership opportunities, the skills that you gain from DECA can make you stand out.
What makes DECA DECA are all the members and advisors that really make this community what it is.
What makes DECA different? The ability to support our local community and make a lasting impact.
DECA showed me that it's possible to make a difference through the work that we do every day.
Come on, let's go experience the difference.
Being able to receive feedback from industry professionals has helped me grow in so many ways.
Hearing my name get called on stage for DECA class was an unimaginable feeling. I knew that my hard work was finally paying off.
What makes DECA DECA is the unique way it prepares us for our future careers. DECA is built different.
You get to experience what it's like to be a finance manager,
Sports marketer, changemaker, leader,
Global citizen, entrepreneur.
influencer. Experience the difference when you join DECA.
So most of what you got to see on the video were footage that was captured at what we call ICDC.
DECA is different.
That's okay. Which is the International Career Development Competition. It is the last level of competition that we have every year, and it's in, usually it's in late April, early May, and then this year that competition is gonna be in Anaheim, California. The first level of competition that we have is region, and that one's gonna be in about 3 weeks, and Walhalla High School is fortunate that we're gonna get to host about 313 high school students from the upstate out on our campus on November the 7th. So we're kind of excited about it. I'm nervous, but I'm excited about that at the same time. I currently serve as one of the South Carolina DECA board members, and so as part of the board, one of my jobs is to help coordinate our region competition. And so we usually have those in Greenville, and the board member who used to handle all of that took a position in out west somewhere. And so when he stepped away, I stepped up, and I was excited to be able to showcase our beautiful campus and to be able to get to bring all of our students, or all of the upstate students to Oconee County. So I know numbers and data is really important. So DECA prepares students for college and career, and so participation in DECA checks the box for college and career readiness. And so at Walhalla High School, this is my second year there, but previously I had been at Career Center for the past 11 years, and we have had a DECA. But this is my second year at Walhalla. And so the first year I really kind of had to get students to kind of understand really what was DECA. I had a few students that I had taught at Career Center that kind of understood it, and they kind of helped me grow the membership. We had 17 members last year. I took 9 students to competition at region. At state, we took 11, and then we had 5 that participated at ICDC, which was in Orlando. This year, we currently have 42 members. We have 28 students who have registered for region competition just from Walhalla alone. And then we have a community service project that we did in April called Prom Promise. It was a week-long campaign that we were trying to raise awareness of the dangers of drinking and driving during prom season. And that really helped us twofold. One, it helped spread that message, but it also helped bring in other students and get them excited about being a part of the organization because they got to see something kind of fun that was part of DECA. So we hope this year we will take 3 times as many students to Charleston for state, and then I hope, even as expensive as Anaheim is, I would like to grow that number of 5 even more. But, you know, with that number growing, we've got to fundraise. So it's a double-edged sword. Okay. What is DECA doing? So like I said, we have region competition in about 3 weeks. State competition is in Charleston in February. And then internationals is what we call ICDC. This year is in Anaheim, California in April. We do social events. We're doing a trunk or treat on October the 30th for elementary students and their families. We're going to be doing some joint CTSO organizational activities for our campus, for our students. We're going to do Prom Promise again in April. We're bringing in some new activities for that one. And then we have leadership opportunities for our students. So I have 5 chapter officers, and then they also have the opportunity to run for state leadership positions. So I have 1 student who is interested that I know of. There may be others, but I know of 1 right now that is interested in running for a state leadership position. So, okay. So would encourage you, if you have an opportunity on November the 7th, if you would have time, like to come out and see what's going on. Like I said, we will be doing competition. There'll be over 300 students there doing competition. I've got 20 business professionals that are coming in to judge these events. The awards presentation will be held right after in the auditorium, and it is open. Board members, y'all are more than welcome. Parents are invited to come in and sit in for the awards. If you have questions or would like more information, please reach out. We would love to have you join us. Okay. Would y'all like to add anything? Ms. Crawford, they're like,
Thank you.
they're like, no.
So like Ms. Welch said, one of the other great things about DECA, and this is also what Mr. Dixon said with report cards being released, we did come up 1 point from last year, which we're very excited about, but we do know that we still have a lot of room to grow. College and career readiness is one of the areas that we have identified that we know we can really make some gains in. So we're doing a lot of things this year, from identifying students taking the ASVAB, which is the military like placement exam, completing pathways that we're offering both through our school and the Career Center, so that we can check those boxes. But like Ms. Welch said, DECA is another way that we can do that. So we are finding every way we can to go through and check boxes and really highlight and show we know we're excellent, but we want to be sure that we show that on paper as well. So huge kudos to them. Thank you guys so much for being here, and thank you for having us.
Thank you. We sure appreciate both of the schools being here, and it's like you said, there's so much learning that goes on outside of the classroom, and we just appreciate you highlighting these things tonight. At this time, it is time for public comment, and I will tell you as we begin, we have 30 minutes set aside for public comment, and we have 6 people signed up. One of them is a business that is allowed 10 minutes, so I just ask that each person, you're allowed 5 minutes, but if you finish sooner, we hope that we can get everybody in, but we will stop after 30 minutes. So with that, we'll have first come forward.
Mark Fisher.
I'll go as fast as I can. Good evening, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to address the board. My name is Mark Fisher. I'm a former employee of the School District of Oconee County, but currently I'm the district manager for Oconee Soil and Water Conservation District, and it's in that capacity that I've become aware of a unique opportunity for not only the School District of Oconee, but the citizens of Seneca and the greater Oconee community. Specifically, I come here tonight to discuss the future of the soon-to-be old Seneca Middle School. I know that there's been a lot of discussion of the property's potential use by the Dream Center, which fell through, and the city of Seneca has expressed interest in the property. I think it's very important for us all to carefully consider the future of the school, its buildings and infrastructure, and the land surrounding it. You may not know this, but the property in question is recognized historically, not only for the city of Seneca and Oconee Soil and Water, but for the whole nation. In the aftermath of the Dust Bowl in the Great Plains of our nation, there was a national newfound awareness of the precious nature of our soil and water resources, and newfound effort was initiated to protect and preserve those resources across the country. Enter Oconee farm owner Ploma Adams, a Seneca resident and Walhalla High School graduate. I've got her diploma, I don't know why, who developed and submitted the first farm conservation plan of any district in the United States of America. The farm on the land where the Shaver Complex and the current middle school are located was never put into a conservation easement, and the land was lost to development. The land where the current Seneca Middle School is located is a significant cultural and historical asset, and its future should be carefully and cautiously considered. Recently, I attended the board meeting of the South Carolina Conservation Bank where funding was approved for a conservation easement on 54 acres of pristine land in Mountain Rest. And at that meeting, $28 million of funding was approved by the board to fund conservation efforts across the state. What impressed me the most during the meeting was the number of cities and counties that were awarded funding to protect open green spaces in their communities, and to add parks already in existence or to create new ones. There was common sense or theme to the comments made by the different representatives that they described to the board, and that was that they were scrambling to preserve and protect green spaces from encroachment by development. One recent subdivision development of 120 acres not far from where the new Seneca Middle School is located was approved for an average of 3.6 houses per acre, a stunning number of homes on that piece of land. And certainly we need affordable housing for families, but we also need to strongly consider the preservation of green and open spaces if we can. I think the school board of Oconee has a rare and important opportunity. I know that the city of Seneca has expressed an interest in having the former school property, which, if combined with other lands owned by the city of Seneca to the north of the Shaver Complex, would total almost 160 acres of land, mostly undeveloped. Green spaces are important and becoming rarer in current times. They impact our mental and physical health, positively improve air quality, reduce the impact of heat waves, and the vegetation there stores carbon and helps mitigate the effect of flooding through the storage of rainwater. The benefits of these green spaces to pollinators, biodiversity, and wildlife are innumerable. There are creeks and streams and the riparian lands along them are so important to flood control on that land that could be restored to provide benefits to wildlife. Perhaps the old school should be raised and returned to green space, or portions of it like the gymnasium and cafeteria be saved, or save the entire structure for multi-purpose use. The possibilities for the school and the surrounding lands are immense, but will require resolve, cooperation, and community input. And so I have an inspired idea that perhaps SDOC, in partnership with the city of Seneca, might join in the name of conservation and place those lands in a conservation easement or a land trust as a gift to all Oconee residents and to the nation. New York has Central Park, London has Hyde Park. Maybe Seneca could have Paloma Adams Park, a place for our community members to ride a bike, have a picnic, walk their dog, take their children to the playground, to interact with their neighbors, or lay in the grass watching the clouds in the sky. And on a community developmental level, parks and green spaces traditionally add value to nearby properties, which adds to tax values, which in turn translates to more funds for a city to improve the area. And if we dream it, we can make it happen. It is rare that we can reverse the path of history to go back and reclaim lands that have been lost to progress and development. Many counties, cities, and communities across our state have become keenly aware of how much they have lost to development. What an incredible gift it would be to reclaim these lands as a legacy of conservation and preservation here in Oconee. I hope that the board will seriously consider what I've proposed here tonight. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Amy Welch.
Good evening. I'm back. I won't take my 5 minutes, but what I'm here to talk to you about, I just wanted to thank you very much for allowing the active shooter drill to take place last week. I was one of the volunteers that participated, and I was speaking on behalf right now as a teacher. It provided me a level of insight that I don't think that I would have ever been able to have had I not participated as a volunteer. As a teacher, I feel like I don't think you would ever say you're prepared for anything like that, but I do feel like I have a level of knowledge that I wouldn't have had otherwise about how things happen and how things, how the response that I wouldn't have had just from your normal code red drills. As a parent, being able to experience the level of response from our law enforcement and our EMS, and to see them in action makes me feel so much more like a sense of, like, I hate to say safety, because when you're thinking about something that awful and that traumatic, I don't know how you feel safe. But just to know that we have people who are actively, they're constantly thinking about how they can improve and how they can prepare and be better at what they do, it does give me a sense of peace. And so I want to say thank you very much for allowing them to use the facility during that week. And I really wish that as a district we could allow or find a way for more teachers to have those experiences on a PD day, something. Because what I feel like I got from the experience, one, my students asked me because they knew that I was going to do it. So they asked me today, what was it like? I said it was traumatic. It was. It scared me half to death. Just not knowing what was coming, and then the things that you see throughout. It opened my eyes a lot, but it made me so much more aware and so much more appreciative of what we are doing. And so I want to say thank you very much for that. Thank you for giving me the opportunity and for giving those, the others that had the opportunity to participate in that. So thank you.
Thank you. Sylvia Garza. whole 2 months, the plans were the same for Tomasi Elementary School until everyone complained. A and B were the same. Even if you did comment on the survey, you still had to check A or B, which made the comment void. So thank you for giving us another option on the survey. But does this mean every survey before the change was made still counts, or was everything reset to 0? Build a smaller school for Kiwi Elementary School because they need it. Their school is older and Tomasi Elementary School has been maintained. You will save money by not having to accommodate our school as well to make their school smaller. Now, some people wonder why there was such a problem about getting people to do the survey, and there was survey abandonment because it was a demographic survey of people think of surveys as anonymous surveys, and people don't want to give personal information such as first and last name, email. Some people don't even have emails, and they can't even take the survey then. Street address, what grade our child is in, where our child is going to school, and where they're going to go in the future. Are you a parent? If you are not a parent, then it was asking if you're an employee. For some people, that felt like that was too much information. It felt like a scam or being politicized. It feels like an attack on personal information. Y'all wouldn't want to give that much information out, right? All these questions are for demographic profiling and security checks, but the reason for anonymous survey is to ensure the people deliver real feedback that leads to accurate data. The people want to see the data, the numbers, the charts, etc. Before you decide on your plan to take away our school, people want to know where you're gathering your information and who's deciding and the criteria. If you want this much information, it may be more sufficient for you to open the comment section on your Facebook webpage. People can comment and debate on their own leisure time. That way, everyone can see who's making the best points and suggestions. Not very many people can make it to board meetings. It may not be what the board wants, but it is what the people want. So what do you do with a healthy budget? Well, there were some people who were complaining about the buses being broken, having no heating or air conditioning, give raises to teachers. That's your time. That's my time, okay. Thank you.
Susan Polamini.
I want to thank you all for this opportunity to speak on behalf of several people in the Tomassi-Salem community. I've discussed this with several people in our community, people who won't come up here and speak because they don't want to be vocal. But I'm blunt, I'm outspoken, opinionated, and I choose to be vocal. Our community is in danger of losing a school again. This district has nothing but contempt for our area for many years. We've been lied to, abused. When the new Walhalla School was being planned and built, we were told, don't worry, your high school is not in danger of closing. And how'd that turn out? Well, Michael Thorsland, not only aided by law enforcement, locked our students in the auditorium and refused a parent to come in or a child to go out. And by the definition of law, that's kidnapping and holding someone hostage. I'm not here asking you to close TSE, which is #1 in test scores, by the way. It was in the Seneca Journal, because it's obvious that you guys have probably already made up your mind and you're just jumping through hoops from this fake survey. I'd like to know who represents the Salem area, because you certainly aren't representing the people. You say you're for the children, but whose children? Certainly not ours, or Keely's for that matter. If you close Tomassi-Salem Elementary, it shows how irresponsible that this school district is. That's a newer school. Why close a newer school? Huey deserves a new building. I mean, Lord knows they've been given the short end as long as we have. And have you considered the impact on the students of both schools if they're closed? Longer bus times, less sleep, etc. It will affect those children. It's proven younger children need more rest than older children. Test scores will drop. And how will that look to the state? Or have you considered that? I'm not only asking for you to do the right thing by our children, I'm demanding it as a taxpayer. Because a lot of tax money comes from the Salem area because of all the developments around us. Thank you.
Lynn Martin.
Thank you for public comment time, and I pray that our comments are heard with open hearts and open minds, and that's what I use my silent prayer time, that the Holy Spirit will open your eyes and your heart to real value. What this boils down to is, we can talk about money all day long, but when you go buy a car or purchase a house, you want to go buy the cheapest one, or that's where you're going to save money, or do you want to have your hard-earned money spent on value? Tomassi-Salem Elementary represents value, something you should be proud of. I have been told by numerous people I can't come and speak. They're either a teacher, or they're close to retirement, or they work in the offices. They're parents. I don't want my child, I don't want any type of retribution to my children. People can't come and speak as I can. And also people in our area, they feel beaten down. They feel beaten already because of what was done to us in the past, which this whole county still comes to me and says, y'all were done wrong. It was wrong. And what it is when you mix people into a big school, they're lost. Those people who need that special attention that you get in small schools, they're lost because they're just part of a big blur. They fall through the cracks, and who sees them? Who sees them are the teachers in small schools when they have their classrooms and they know what that child came from. They meet the needs of that child. They know how to help that child, and it shows in the numbers. If you will compare Tomassi-Salem Elementary numbers to Walhalla Elementary, to any of the the higher socio-economical schools in this county, Tomasi Salem Elementary stands out like a bright light, and you're going to destroy that? Where is the value there? They stand out like a bright light. They should be in the same numbers of readiness, school readiness, as Pine Street, as the lower socio-economical levels. But just compare them. I mean, see the value spent for the money. And if you're going to talk about saving $1.3 million, whose lifetime are you going to save that? It's probably not mine. I'm 60. It's not going to be in my lifetime. It might be in your lifetime, but what we're going to leave behind is a debt for children behind us. Will they see savings? No, they're not going to see savings. If you think that closing one school, what you're going to do with all those salaries, you're going to disperse them to another school. It's not like you're going to lose your job and we're saving money. I'm still trying to find the $750,000 that was saved from closing Tomasi Salem Elementary and losing all those children. They fell through the cracks. Also, public school is losing popularity. We know that 10,000 students have remained about the same right here in this county. Parents are independent thinkers, and they see that sometimes public school is not what they want for their children because of things that you have to abide by. We don't have to do that. Anyway, I want to make a plea. Before you vote to close our school, I would ask you to go and get on the bus with a child that maybe rides from Jocassee, and then think about adding 10 or 15 or 30 minutes to that ride, if they're wherever you're going to bus them to. And tell that child, don't go to sleep on that bus because he's not going to get tired. I just want you to do that. I also want you to consider redrawing school district lines. I have heard, but I've not gotten in a car and driven that Falcon's Lair, which is shoves towards Walhalla, that they're actually 2 miles closer to Tomasi Salem Elementary. What I would like to challenge is people in this county to look at Tomasi Salem Elementary and say, I would like for my child to go there. They talk about shorter lines. They talk about a beautiful school. I hope we have an influx of enrollment at Tomasi Salem Elementary. Also, development is coming to our area. It would be smart to save Tomasi Salem Elementary, look at its value, and know that in the future we will be increasing enrollment at that school. Thank y'all, and I'll see y'all throughout this duration.
Eddie Martin.
We've had a lot of pleas from the community, guys. You know, we really need to take a look and see what we're doing. I would like to ask anybody that's in support of Tomasi Salem Elementary to please stand up. We never get all of this. We've got all that right now. These people are here. All of them can't speak, not necessarily in front of people. So some of the rest of us have to get up and keep coming back and keep coming back. I want to make a real quick comment on Mark's statement earlier. I held that job for 10 years before I retired, and then Mark came in. So my heart is in stewardship, and I don't think that continually looking to build projects is good stewardship. It was mentioned here 2 meetings ago that other areas don't have the ability just to run out and grab a bunch of land and put new schools on it. They have to work within the framework of what they already have. Why do we not take a look at that and continue to do maintenance work, good maintenance work on our, not saying that we don't do good maintenance work now, but what I'm saying is we have to have a continuous outlook to preserve what we have and not continue to look somewhere else and build new buildings to be used for 20 years and then start all over. At some point, the land's going to run out, and you're not gonna have that option, why not just go ahead now and take a look at preserving what you've got? I'd like to know how we designate the funding for the building projects. Is it mandated by the state, or does the district do it on their own and say, we got this pot of money here, we're gonna use that for buildings, we got this pot of money here, we're gonna use it for whatever else we need to use, the education process or what have you. I say we take that building pot and turn it back into the regular system to support the students, to support the teachers, to support the buildings that we already have. We are constantly bombarded by, we need to raise money, we need to raise money. We heard it tonight. We'll have to raise money. If we move some of this stuff out of this building pot, we might not have to raise so much money. We might not have to ask the parents all the time and the grandparents, can you send us some money for our elementary school? Can you send us some money to help us get the teachers the things they need? It only takes 3 votes to put a stop to this. A board is put together to make the best decisions possible for everybody involved, and everybody in the education process in Oconee County is involved. Everybody in Oconee County is involved because it hits everybody. The taxes, the money spent. So 3 votes can put a stop to this right here, and then we can start to look for another path forward.
Stephen Dow, Mr. Dow.
I made a couple of copies of this letter. I came a couple meetings ago and spoke a little bit, you know, about the whole idea of what the previous speaker was talking about constantly, as a regular cycle, building in new locations as opposed to maintaining the buildings that you have. And I mixed into it also the advantages of smaller schools, which some of the other speakers have talked about. And after I said a few things the last time, I went home and I thought about it, and I got even more fired up kind of about it, and thinking that we're really just going in the wrong direction. And I don't want to be like some of the commenters have been a little bit antagonistic, and you know, I don't want to look at it that way. I want you to you know, hear this idea and take it to heart, but not because, you know, we're fighting you or anything, but just I think it's the better way to look at things. So you know, with all that excitement, I went home and I wrote this long document, and I hope that you have seen it at least and at least glanced through it. I sent it by email to the board members, and I sent it by email to the newspaper. I didn't say, you know, that this should be an article. I just said, you know, here's something, you know, in case you think it's news or whatever. At first they were talking about maybe putting it in as a column, but it's too long, and so I shortened it some, and then they decided, well, that would fit in 2 letters to the editor, I guess. So they didn't tell me, but they just went ahead and cut it in 2 and put the first half of it in as a letter to the editor. I don't know if anybody saw it the other day, but I have a couple of extra copies of this letter that I wrote, but I don't really have enough to pass out to everybody. But I would let everybody know that if you want to talk to me afterwards about emailing it to anybody that wants to see it, you know, and if any of you, if some glitch caused you to not see it, you know, I'll help you get a copy of it. But I talked about a lot of the things that some of the other speakers have talked about. the advantages of small schools, the idea that the staff at the school will have a better chance to get to know all the kids. And I think that shows in Tomasi-Salem. You know, Mr. Norzan does a fantastic job. I had a child there for a couple of years that we're homeschooling now, but I've told them profusely that it didn't have anything to do with them not doing a good job there, that they did a great job there. And when the pandemic came up, it just seemed like, you know, things were going to continue to be in disarray, and we decided to homeschool. But that school is great, and the staff there is doing great. And I think there's some, one little point that I would add, I don't know if I have time, but like in the breakdown where you said, well, if we had one school, we would have one principal and one assistant principal, versus if we had two schools, we'd have two principals and two assistant principals. Well, one thing that's a little bit fallacious about that is that if you have a given number of kids, you're going to have discipline problems where they have to go to the principal and things that have to be dealt with in proportion to the number of kids, regardless, you know. So I think that if you're probably going to wind up, if you make a bigger school, I don't know what the numbers are, but you're probably going to wind up needing another assistant principal or something like that, you know, to take care of all the kids at the bigger school. And you might even have, you know, I mentioned in my letter that the statistics show that you have more discipline problems, you know, per student. I mean, not obviously you're going to have more with more kids, but even on a per student basis, you're likely to have more problems with a bigger school. Well, thank you for your time.
All right, you received the minutes from the September 11th work session meeting and also the September 18th, 2023 regular board meeting minutes. Did anyone see anything that needed changing? All right, then the minutes from September 11th work session and September 18th regular board meeting will be approved with no objection. All right, Dr. Wilson.
Thank you. As Ms. Welch talked about, I wanted to just share that we did have the emergency last week at Seneca High School on Wednesday when the schools were closed. Ms. Hughes did a great job organizing that with Scott Crine across the street, Director of Emergency Management, as well as Mark Lyles and our other Sheriff's Office supporters, and Sheriff Crenshaw was involved and his whole team. But just a great chance to practice. It did reveal a lot of things that things that happened that we said, we probably need to do that differently if this ever comes up. So it provided us just good experience and good learning. Missed a lot of it, but we also in the afternoon went and practiced a reunification. And I won't give too many details about that, but that's kind of more on the school district, whereas if we ever had an emergency, that kind of falls more towards law enforcement and emergency management. But reunification is more on the school district to get back to their parents. And we learned a lot through that process as well. So just good opportunities that I wanted to share. And then just highlight a couple of positive things that we've had the past few weeks. The South Carolina Foothills Heritage Fair happened a few weeks ago. And the thing that stood out to me, certainly it's just a great fun time for families in the evenings, but our middle and high school agriculture students hosted elementary school students during the day and did an outstanding job of putting on just a high quality local field trip for our elementary school students. great opportunity for our high school students and middle school students to learn to speak in front of a crowd, to show leadership skills, just really a good field trip all the way around. So I wanted to highlight the FFA group for that. We had all-county chorus just a week or so ago, and there are a couple of pictures there. Mr. Smith got to introduce our clinician and welcome people to that event. I think that's the middle school choir, and there's the high school choir. But just great performance. A little bit later this month, the 24th, I believe we have all-county orchestra coming up. And just really appreciate the SDOC's focus on the performing arts. And then we also had an Employee of the Year ceremony where Ms. Waring in our HR office does a great job every year of recognizing our Employees of the Year. So we have Teacher of the Year, Support Employee of the Year, Volunteer of the Year, Support. We had substitutes, I think, that we honored. So just a good opportunity to brag on people who were doing a great job in our school district. So that was a nice event. And one I should have put on here that I failed to was that we had our Hike for Hope as well. We appreciate Blue Ridge Electric letting us borrow their facility on a Saturday morning. But that was a great event as well to highlight the importance of suicide prevention and mental health awareness. So, just some positive things going on this fall. I wanted to kind of publicly announce those and make sure y'all are aware of some of the good things going on in the district.
And I wanted to add to that, West Lake High School hosted a chamber event last week, and that it was great to have the public in the school and to have so many officials see the school, and it was good to have them there also. Mr. Leroy, you have a human resources update for us.
Thank y'all so much for allowing me to be here today. Of course, in the HR office, we're always looking to hire the best and brightest out there. As an aside, we've had 3 events so far, counting tomorrow, that we've gone recruiting, and we've hit the road quite nicely so far, with a lot of positive relationships building and hopefully sealing the deal on them in the weeks to come. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about our exit interview data. And so first of all, before we do, I really want to thank Ms. Jennifer Dodd for helping the evolution of this come along a lot easier to follow than what we did before. We went from a lot of open-ended questions to a lot of things that we can kind of quantify a little better. So we're excited about that. So what you see here is not every one of our folks that have left us. Not everyone participates. We try to allow them to either do it face-to-face or we let them do it electronically, however they want. So this represents roughly 30%, up to 35 maybe, of the folks that have left us in that period of time. But if you look here, if you think of a clock, it goes clockwise. So as you see the schools listed, the sort of high noon sliver of 1 is adult ed and continues to go around in a circle all the way to, I think the last one is West Oak Middle. The only school not represented here is Tomasi Salem Elementary. They didn't have anyone. They had folks that left but did not complete an exit interview. And so on average, the location average was approximately, it was 4.3. So you see some that are a little more than that, some a little less than that, for a whole host of reasons. And of course, it's a snapshot in time, so it's not, it's a trend to watch, but it usually goes with the larger schools, has a larger amount of folks that are leaving for whatever reason they might be. And so the next slide shows a little bit about who completed the exit interviews, what they did. I know this is kind of small to see. I'm like Scott Dixon. My trifocals can't get to the right sweet spot there, but essentially breaks down that the largest percentage, the big green on the chart on the left, represents our teachers. So that's the largest percentage of those that are represented in an exit interview. The other side, it represents the length of time, the length of employment. And so for our office, we're looking very carefully at that blue and orange section on the right hand of the pie graph there that you'll see. And that represents our shortest term employees. And so that's something, and of course, our office is looking for, hiring the best and brightest, but also retaining the best and brightest. So that's a little bit of a concern that we're going to continue to watch and continue to support. We really love the direction in which our mentor program is going with our office and the Office of Instruction. Particularly, my personal opinion is the breaking down of instruction into elementary and secondary will only help us in really kind of drilling into the teachers' specific needs that they might have in their level. And so we're excited about that. But that is something, that kind of jumps out to us a little on that slide. The next slide, it talks about, first of all, you have the resignation versus retirement. The vast majority is resignation. And then the slide, the bigger part of the pie graph to the right talks about the reasons for leaving. And the largest one there represented there is personal and family obligations. So a lot of folks talk about caring for a family member, whether it be an aging parent, spouse, siblings, what have you, is the largest number represented in that group. And also following up with a better job opportunity, and the other kind of one that spikes up higher is relocating, moving away from us. And so of those that answered that they were leaving to go to a different district, this breaks down why that was. We have a couple of folks that actually answered this question that aren't really leaving, so we got a couple of bonus information there. A couple of folks that actually answered that aren't really leaving for another district, but they threw their input anyway. But we have there, shorter commute was one of the largest ones, advancement opportunities, pay increase, and those kind of go hand in hand a little bit for those that answered that. So those are our spikes in that regard. The next thing you see is talking a little bit more like an overall feel for the district. The orange here represents yes and the blue no. So the question asked, would you recommend the school district as a good place to work to other folks? And of course that is a large majority saying yes. And also your specific school or department as a great place to work, or a good place to work rather, and it's pretty much the same, 68 to 5 in that manner. The next one represents a little more about experiences and the relationships of the employees. So if you look at the colors here, the blue and the orange represent more of the, feel-good portion of the graph, if you would, where the gray and the yellowish color are not so positive. So in the visual across these, the good side is healthier than the more negative. But the first one talks about working relationship with your administrator and supervisor. Excellent and good are represented in blue and orange respectively there. And then you've got the gray and the orange going from fair to poor. The benefits is one of our strengths, in our profession, so most folks are very pleased with that. Working relationship with coworkers is generally very high and has been since we did exit interviews. That's never been a real concern, and that's indicated even still. Training, it trends pretty high, but in terms of, overall, that is something that we constantly look to improve, no matter what. More succinct and beneficial training in whatever capacity is what we see. Supplies and equipment, we're very blessed, and coming back from, we did recruiting today at Anderson University, and hearing colleagues talk about things, we're very blessed in terms of supplies, equipment, resources, school buildings, et cetera, that is really a draw to folks that are looking to come to us, not necessarily from folks that graduated from us. So that is a strength that we see no matter where we go. Go to Lander tomorrow, so I'm sure we'll talk that up as well then. So we're excited. And then salary, something that, really thrilled for all the efforts, and thank you for the efforts in all things salary improvement. That is something that, quite frankly, sometimes we've lost some folks to Greenville County on the back end of their salary that they're going to go and finish their career there, and it's monetary reasons. And there's usually a connection to Greenville County as well, so it's not like a longer commute. There's usually some sort of mid-range type convenience as well. And that is represented among that input from the salary perspective. The next one talks about your experience in the district. A lot of questions related to that. The first one, the evaluation procedures. They feel like that's excellent and good for the vast majority. And so really pleased with that. And I'm kind of going down from the far left, that's the upper left, and down from there is the district administrative support, and again, overwhelmingly positive in that regard as well. The middle one, opportunity for advancement. A lot of, that's one of our less excellent but higher goods, so still on the positive side of things as well. Facilities and safety on the far right, and overall experiences, all very positive. And so we're really pleased with those experiences. The next set of questions talk specifically about the direct administrator and supervisor. And again, same color scheme. The blues represent agree, more positive in nature. The orange disagree. And there are some that were just kind of, couldn't make a decision, sort of went right in the middle there. So the first one on the far upper left talks about being treated fairly. So the overwhelming majority agree that was the case. Down from that, encouraged cooperation and teamwork. Same kind of deal there. Most all of our schools they're excellent in that capacity, and that's reflected in the feedback we get. Or my opinion is we're excellent in that, and it's definitely valued as well from the feedback we get. Also encouraged and listened to suggestions. Again, that is one of our higher spikes in the disagree, but it still only represents 10 of the overall 73, I think it was. It was that. So still a good percentage. And then the bottom right asks about being treated with respect. And that is also a very positive spike in that direction. The next one asks, how would you rate your direct supervisor or administrator? And when asking these questions like face-to-face, we talk about the building principal usually, or the building director. So that's kind of who we specify in these, not necessarily an assistant principal, but the direct supervisor in that regard. So the first one talked about the upper left, responding to complaints and problems, very positive in that nature. In that particular question, below that, ask about managing employee issues appropriately. And within that is also timely, appropriately and timely. Kind of goes hand in hand. And again, we differentiate that when we do the face-to-face one. So maybe, and I think that's probably clearly understood too when they do it online as well. Then over to the right side, the upper part is the question asked about being recognized for effort and good work. Very positive in that regard. And also timely communications. I know oftentimes I've heard, I think Dr. Thorson himself talk about, as quick a turnaround on emails and things like that. 24, 48 hours is certainly our goal to do that. In some capacity to give feedback back. That's not the only way that you give feedback back, but that's pretty, that throws a bigger net out to the community of the school with emails. So overall, pleased with those results. The next thing that you see that I provided is, in the past, we've done, the single year. And so I thought it might be helpful to get a 3-year snapshot to see trends, and how that kind of ebbs and flows over time. And so this is pretty much a demographic breakdown of our 3-year new certified hires, not total hires, but certified hires. And so overall, we have right now, this year, we have 917 certified employees. And so if you see the total number in the upper right and lower right, these are our total certified hires. These numbers represent 14% of our total certified staff. And again, so they're new employees, so not nearly as many as all of them. But it's still trends that we value because, as you can see, we don't have a big gap in the target each year. It's fairly tight when you think about who we're after each year for new hires. And so this data that you see represents sort of where we've been through time. So focusing on the 23-24 school year, I'm not going to go through every single category here, but we always look at, if you'll notice, our trend in the age group is something that, we're hiring. I kid them all the time, hired a bunch of babies nowadays, more so than some of our older folks. And so, we're trying to really hone in on how to support that age bracket versus my age bracket, It's a big difference. Fortunately for me, I have 2 children that's rolling into this age bracket, so I know a little bit about how they tick and some of our new employees as well. And so we're constantly trying to make sure that we are growing them, and again, that is something that's recognized through our efforts as growing folks in our profession, that if you are hired by us, the chances are that if you want to pursue different jobs in administration, there's a good likelihood that you have opportunities, because that's kind of what we do and have done over time. So we're heavy on the bachelors, but we are, we're still really solid on masters plus 30, and an uptick in doctorate hires as well this year. You can see a breakdown of all the positions, and that's kind of 2 columns from admin to MTSS coaches on the left-hand column, and then it picks back up on the right-hand column at the bottom from music all the way down to speech. Some of the things that you see, of course, some spikes. We're always going to be heavier early childhood and elementary. We just have more teachers that we need, and so the math of that works out that way. Special ed numbers, as you can see, is anywhere the low to mid-20s for the last 3 years. And so that kind of helps us target when we go out and recruit and offer early contracts to, it really is a shot in the dark at this point in October, but if we don't do it in October, other districts are. And again, when we want to get the best and brightest, we want to make sure that we offer that to be competitive with our neighboring districts. And so, very happy to report we are interviewing 35 Anderson University folks next week, and very excited about a lot of secondary math. So we all but... we will roll out the red carpet and, bring them lunch, whatever we need to do, because they are a hot commodity out in the market about that subgroup of teachers as well. But on the right-hand side, you see a little bit of our ethnicity breakdown, contract status, years experience. And again, we're constantly trying to hire folks that represent the school populations of our area. And of course, the more diverse, the better. And so we're actively seeking that. We are doing so right this moment. We lost out to some bigger districts this past year on some folks. And sometimes it happens. If you look in 22-23, we had a much better year, 21-22, 22-23 with African American hires. We had a good 22-23 year overall with diversity hires. And so we're hoping to emulate that year more than we had last year in this upcoming year. So induction has been pretty heavy. We've, when you talk about the contract, but that represents, quite frankly, kind of mirrors the age group at the same time. So those are very similar in nature. And then you see that years of experience. And of course, from the first set of data to this one, that eye-opening of those that are leaving us are also representing in the numbers that we're hiring the most of. So that's something that we're paying close attention to, keeping our ear closer to the ground and trying to retain those folks so that we can get them for the long term, which is kind of what our goal is when we do go out and try to hire folks. And so, like I said, you know, this is pretty much how we break down the rest of the positions you see are just kind of the numbers. And they're not, like I said, they're kind of the same. You know, there's math lately has been a spike, so therefore that's kind of what we're looking for because we want to beef up in math, specifically secondary math. And so it's equal opportunity recruitment because we had some of our best math teachers recruited from outside of education, and there's a lot of money when the Floor Daniels of the world come calling, and guys roofing and folks like that. It's, you know, that's it's like tough to compete with the salary all the time. It's also flattering that they're after our folks because that reaffirms the fact that we are hiring great ones. You know, they're not gonna, those companies don't seek slouches, so we're pretty proud of that too and happy for them. And we also stay in touch with them in case they're not happy in their current job. So hopefully they will come back one day. But do you have any questions for me?
I had just had one.
Yes, ma'am.
And special ed, it looks like we just hire disproportionately large numbers every year. Is that, and I know that we have a hard time finding them and keeping them. Do we have that many people leaving? Are we just not getting positions filled? I just wondered if there was a reason.
I think it's a combination of both, quite frankly. As most educators know, and you guys as the board know, it's a tough job. It's tougher. The demands are higher. And a lot of graduates, young graduates specifically, I don't think quite understand that because college can only prepare you for so much until you get in the classroom. And I think sometimes that, you know, can be a challenge. Again, with what I said earlier, I love the plan that we have to break up secondary elementary. I think that's going to help a great deal because, you know, it's vastly different. Secondary special ed, elementary special ed, it's very different. And so I think that's going to help a great deal. And I'm excited about that. It's early to know, but I do think, Ms. McCormick, that is going to be the case. And so really looking to follow that closely.
Thank you.
Early returns would indicate that.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, from the feedback we get, so.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, like particularly on slides 6 and 7, that I'm assuming that information is based on all of the people who left the district. Would it be possible for you to give us that information just from the teachers that left the district?
Yes, we can.
Break that down.
I think that's something that would be key to understanding the retainment issue.
Sure. And those are the experiences and relationship ones, the you said 6 and 7?
Right.
Yes, ma'am. We can. Yeah, we can do that. Kind of tease that part out.
Thank you.
Just teachers?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm just happy to hear that you are focused on retaining and possibly getting into a mentorship type program for our young induction teachers to keep them. I think that is.
Yeah, I really want to brag on Susie Waring, does a great job. She and I do a lot of the evaluation specificness with our young ones, and our instructional department and the specialists really do a lot of the heavy lifting for instruction. And so it's a good, I think, kind of yin and yang situation for them, and they appreciate it. From what our feedback from them is at the end of the year.
Anyone have any comments or questions? Mr. Leroy, thank you. That was
Thank you.
very, very informative.
I appreciate it. Thank y'all.
All right, Mr. Schickling, the September financial report.
I'll try to keep this one short and sweet. There's not a lot going on in the world of budget right now. The one thing that I would call some attention to is we've executed some budget transfers. So the board approved transferring money out of salaries and benefits into contractuals because of the Kelly Education contract. So where there would on the last report have been some pretty substantial negative brackets in the contractual area, those have been remedied. Not a lot in terms of revenue aside from state sources, and spending again is pretty much your standard salaries and benefits and a little bit of purchasing activity for utilities, and consistent food service management and construction pay apps on the disbursement. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anyone have any other things? Okay, great, thank you very much. And now Mrs. McDonald, policy ADA.
All right, so we've just been looking, being reflective as a part of this reaccreditation process, really looking at the systems that we have in place. And so as a part of that, we've been looking at policy ADA, looking at our school district's mission and vision, and just trying to consider if our current mission and vision really still resonate with who we are as an organization and where we're headed. And so whenever we did that, we really felt as though our mission was still a part of our core work that we're still doing each and every day, and that it really aligns with what we want to do for our students that go through the school district of Oconee County. However, we were kind of challenged whenever we looked at our vision statement, because our current vision statement is the vision of the school district of Oconee County is to be a top 10 district in the state. And so while that vision is most certainly aspirational, we wanted to really look at something that could be more definitive and something that could provide a little bit more clarity so we know really where we're going. So as a team, we got together and we crafted a new draft of a vision statement that we'd like to bring before you guys tonight. And that vision statement is the vision of the school district of Oconee County is to be an exemplary educational community that inspires and equips students to reach their highest potential. Just a couple of things to highlight about that vision statement. Looking at that idea of being an exemplary educational community, to us that really still speaks to our aspiration of being a top 10 district in our state, because to be exemplary, you have to be at the top, right? So we still feel as though that the heart and spirit of our old vision is still in there, but we've just kind of created a little bit more clarity around that. In addition, we feel as though whenever we note this idea of inspiring kids, that's what we want to do each and every day, inspire them what their futures can be, make sure we're building on those dreams, and in addition to allowing them to dream, also giving them the tools they need to be successful and potentially reach their highest potential. And so that's the version that we've really landed on. We've socialized this vision statement within our district office, as well as with principals and with the parent committee. We're going to bring it before students at our next student advisory, so we're excited about that. And we'll also talk about it with our teacher forum and get some more feedback. But so far, the feedback has been positive, and this is where we've kind of landed without folks really asking for adjustments. Also on your desk, you'll see a draft paper that has our mission and vision, but you'll also note that we have some commitment statements that we've been working on. And so we've just started going through this process again through reaccreditation, being reflective of who we are, and really thinking about the message that we want to make sure we're presenting to our stakeholders. Oftentimes when we're communicating about our district, we talk about talking to parents, talking to community members, talking to teachers. But we really wanted to take the time to make sure our students know what we want to commit to them each and every day when they're sitting in our classrooms and they're learning. And so we took some time, crafted these commitments together, spent a lot of time talking about the words, because we know that there's power in words and the way that we make statements, we say them. And so the 4 that we kind of landed on right here, and again, we wanted to root these in things that we can actually do for our students. And so we didn't want them to be something that's high and in the sky, and you ask any kid, like, are they doing that for you? Like, well, I don't think that's happening, right? And we really wanted them to root them in the practices that we see in our buildings and that are good things for our students. And so the first one here just says providing each student with a broad range of high-quality academic offerings that prepare students for success in college, career, and military service through engaging and relevant learning experiences. The second, providing safe and secure schools that are orderly and equipped with the tools necessary for each student to learn. The third, providing a caring environment that supports each student, recognizes individual strengths, and honors cultural backgrounds so that students learn to value and care for other people. And the last one, providing each student with a broad range of extra and co-curricular opportunities that stimulate growth in teamwork, leadership, creativity, and connect students to their school community. And so while these aren't a part of policy ADA, we did feel as though it's important for us to bring these statements and these commitments to you guys, because ultimately this is also a part of the work that you guys would also be committing to for students that are in our district each and every day. And we just really wanted to settle on, providing that statement of how we're going to care for kids, how we're going to keep them safe, how we're going to make sure they feel protected and they learn something each and every day, as well as provide them the opportunities to become the person that they inspire and want to be. So these are just the items that I have. If anybody has questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Looks great.
We really appreciate you tackling this. It's obvious, put a lot of thought in it. Thank you. All right, Mr. Smith, state report card release.
Yes, ma'am, and good evening. You've already heard a couple of references this evening to the release of the state report cards. And probably the most profound statement's already been made, that you simply can't measure all of the great things that our schools do for children on one instrument. But the instrument does provide us with perspective, and that includes things that we might be able to celebrate, and also some things that might help us be reflective and improve some of our practice. And so the document that you have before you represents a brief summary of the data for our district schools. Specifically, you'll see at the top categorical and numerical ratings for each school. In the middle of the document, you'll see the number of SDOC schools in each category. And as a guide at the very bottom, you'll see the numerical ranges for each category by school level. For the sake of comparison, I'd say that we're fairly well aligned with state averages, with a slightly lower percentage of schools in both the good and excellent, but also in the below average and unsatisfactory categories, and a higher percentage slightly of schools in the average category. As a reminder, these ratings are made up of several categories that vary a bit by level. That's elementary, middle, and high school levels. All schools are measured in the categories of academic achievement, preparing for success, multilingual proficiency, and school climate. Our elementary and middle school ratings have the inclusion of a student progress category, and our high school ratings obviously uniquely have graduation rate and college and career readiness that was also referenced earlier during the DECA presentation. Each of these categories is weighted with an emphasis on student achievement, student progress, graduation rate, and college and career readiness. As a brief update, I can tell you that each school has had the opportunity to conduct a formal review of their data from the 22-23 school year. And following that review, we've conducted formal data priority conversations and discussions with each school leader. As a result, each school has established 3 key priorities and goals for this year that are linked to data specific to those schools and the categories represented on the state report card. In addition to seeing some promising initial work in the areas of academic achievement, student progress, and graduation rate specifically, I'd like to point out that while one of our schools is already in the highest category, 8 of our other schools are within 3 points of moving up a categorical level on the state report card. So in short, while these results are certainly not bad, we see opportunities to significantly improve and believe that we're well positioned to see some solid gains on next year's state school report cards. Thank you.
Any questions? It was interesting tonight to hear that our principals are already addressing these with us. So I'm sure it's, and they haven't been out long, so I know that they really are working hard to look at next year. Thank you. Mr. Hanvey, the long-range building plan cost implications, please.
Yes, I know that this has been talked about as we've gone through and we continue to look at this process. And just a couple of reminders, we did get you guys to approve $25 million that we are currently using, that it comes up about facilities and at times that we are currently using to upgrade the facilities that we need to based on the internal long-range facility study that we did, and we had some contractors help us with. So Mr. Whitrock and his team are working on that, as we go through. But as we've talked, and I know we didn't put savings and things, these are based on this year's numbers, and in the plan, the earliest it looks like if it were to happen would be 2029-ish before a school would able to be done and things based on the priority list and that. So the number will change as the state continues to look to increase salaries for teachers and things as it should. So there will be differences. Just to quickly address one of the things Mr. Dow made a comment about, which he's very thorough, and I did read the things in the journal. We have a formula that we use. We use a formula for teachers, we use a formula for administrators, we use a formula for classified staff, custodial staff, clerical staff, and that. So the formula we use for teachers is 18.5 students to 1. And that's a change we made about 3 years ago. We used to designate it by the maximum number of kids you could have in a grade level. We wanted to give the building administrators more flexibility with what they could do with the positions. So we now use similar to what we do at the middle school, 21 to 1, and the high school, 23 to 1, those numbers. So these are based on 18.5 to 1 numbers. So if you look on the left side, it talks about how we have it now with 2 schools. Currently, there are 33 teachers. So like at Tomasi Salem, in K through 5, there are 188 students. On the formula, they would get 10 teachers. We give them 13 teachers because 10 teachers, you can't even have 2 per grade level. Plus, you get no gifted and talented, you get no academic assistance. So we supplement 3 positions to make sure they have enough to be able to have 2 per grade level and then gifted and talented and academic assistance. At Kiwi, they get 3 per grade level on the kindergarten through 5th grade, and then they get 2 more for academic assistance. So that comes up with 33. So they've got 20 at Kiwi and 13 certified teachers at Tomasi. So you can see if we used our formula and combined them with the a little over 500 students combined in the 540 range, we would, by formula, it would be 27 teachers. He talked about principals and assistant principals. We obviously only have 1 principal, a director. But the formula calls for a second, a 0.5 assistant principal and a 0.5 guidance counselor, only if your enrollment is over 600. We currently have a few that are kind of grandfathered in. Their enrollment has dropped below 600, but we haven't taken those positions out, typically in our Title I school. But at 600 is where you go and get an extra half-time guidance and an extra half-time assistant principal. SRO, that's pretty cut and dry. You go from 2 to 1. Remember, we fund 10 of them, and the county funds 9 other ones. So media specialist, guidance counselor, again, that if you're over 600, there'll be another half there. When you look at the custodial and you look at what kind of square footage you would need in your coverage, there would be a decrease there. Clerical, we have a formula for. Teacher's assistants, that's just based on the number of kindergarten classes you would have and special ed classes you would have. And then, of course, the nurse, it's kind of one-to-one. So, those numbers, based on what we have now on the left side, and if you adjusted it, Jay did the heavy lifting with the math, but we would be looking at a difference of a little over $1.35 million. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention that came up in public comment was we don't
when this is something that's happened in the past and school lost teachers or whatever, because it adjusts every year. Northside may have 31 teachers this year, and they go to 29 next year. The principal makes the adjustment. But we don't lay people off. We use attrition to place people somewhere else, and try to go through there. So what that would mean was that would be potentially 6 less teachers Mr. Leroy would be hunting for, because we would have those to place. Again, these are on current numbers. I can't tell you what it's going to be in 5 or 6 years, but I will tell you that it's probably not going down. The number will go up. And as was noted on the slide, that didn't include utilities, transportation, and maintenance. Dr. Thorson did go across the street and got some help from the county. He has the map on his desk. We pulled all the addresses of the kids that attend Kiwi, Tomasi, Salem, Walhalla, those, and they marked it on a map with those attendance areas, so you can see how far we go. And while it is a big attendance area already for Tomasi, Salem, and that, when you look at where our people live versus the rest of the part of that attendance area where our people live that don't have students, the West Oak attendance area is 42 miles long, from Long Creek to Fairplay. So looking at that, it doesn't seem like it would add, definitely not going to add 30 minutes to any bus rides in that, but those are just kind of things that we've kind of looked at as we go, because they continue to come up as we hear the public comments, so we want to study them and try to find good answers and responses, and share what the people are asking about.
I guess one comment I would make is nobody wants to make it hard for a community. It is, I think, being consistent. If you look at the history of our county, Mr. Herring, I believe you played football at Fairplay High School.
The one year we had football down there.
And
I guess you could call it football.
Oconee High School, Westminster High School. It was Kiwi with a high school at one point. And decisions do have to be made, sometimes to provide more consistent service, and that's just where we as an administrative team feel why we're making this recommendation to you. But it's not because of any animosity to any community in our county. It's just over time, as transportation has improved, it is easier and more efficient for us to provide services in buildings that serve larger numbers of students. And for us to have elementary schools that served 200 students, if we did that for the entire county, we'd have to have 22 or 23 elementary schools. So talk about taking up additional space. If we wanted to provide that kind of service to every elementary family in our county, we'd be adding schools. And we don't feel like that's the most efficient use of resources.
And just another that came out, I know they had to leave, but the question, we have certain funds that have to be spent on capital projects. It's 8%, called 8%, we call it 8% money, capital improvement, or whatever you want to call it, but there's a limit on how much we can get as far as selling bonds and being able to obtain money for buildings, because we're not going to go out in Oconee County, South Carolina, and have a referendum to build a bunch of buildings. We don't do that. So we try, like, for example, for Seneca Middle, I've mentioned that we had to bank 2.5 years worth of money in order to be able to do that project. In fact, that project got pushed back a year because we weren't able to, technically, what we wanted to do 5 years ago, they would have opened this year. But because of funding and us not being able to, get enough in savings with the other things we're doing, because we get a little over $20 million that we can sell bonds for. We can't use all that on a building project because we have other general maintenance things that we have to take care of, and part of that comes out of there. So there are different pots of money, and you can't just say, okay, we're going to take the $20 million we got through bond sales for the building program and put it in operations. That's against the law, actually. illegal.
And the payments for those bonds that are made over time, that's the capital levy that comes from the county. So if we did not have that obligation to repay those bonds, that money simply would not be collected. It would not be able to be reallocated for other purposes.
I think that's maybe a little bit of what people don't understand, is that you can't take building money and increase teacher salaries.
Correct.
You can't buy supplies, and I don't know, and I think that has something to do with some of the questions that came up, is because there's not enough.
That's why I wanted to explain it, and I know that it'll be on the radio and in the paper, hopefully, so we can have folks understand it. People are welcome to call, and I'll have a conversation with them, or email me a question about it, and I'll do my best to talk them through it. But that's kind of what we are looking at, and when you guys are looking at this 5-year plan, we budget $20.5 million a year, and we see how we spend it out. And that's why the plan wouldn't start for this for 3 or 4 years, because we're doing $25 million worth of work on our current buildings. We're looking at $15-16 million of work on James and Brown that would get them closer to what every other elementary school has their size, and then we would get into that. So I mean, we're gonna be where we are for 4 or 5 years, no matter what the vote is, because we just are not going to be able to afford to do anything differently.
Is there any way to look at the instructional offerings of those two schools and compare what advantages it would be for students from Tomasi to have in a larger school? Like, would there be things that are offered to them as students that they currently don't have because you don't have, or that we don't have the staff to give it to them, or they don't have enough students to participate in a program? Like, for example, at the last meeting, the 5th grader from Kiowee talked about the economics thing that they were involved in. Is there some way to show them that there is perhaps a better way?
Well, what they do, what Mr. Norzan's plan has been to, because the number of students who qualify for the gifted and talented is not high enough to do a grade level pullout, which is what most of our elementary schools typically would do, is he has gotten each of his teachers to go get the endorsement for gifted and talented. You get 1 year that you can do it without the endorsement, and the next year you have to have the endorsement. So those kids get that enrichment or extension within the class with everybody else. So that is a little bit tougher to do than when you're pulling those kids out. Like I made the comment that I didn't know that if they would be able to do a project like that, because you're going to have to coordinate it with multiple teachers and that kind of thing. So I think there are some things like that. When you have more staff, you have more people who are interested in this club or that club that you can offer after school. And some clubs, some do art clubs, some do running club, and they can do those if they get sponsors for them. But there are just some things that, the chorus programs and things, and participating in with other kids. We can look and get more specifics if that's what you would like us to do.
If it would help in some way to generate a positivity on this consolidation, as opposed to all of it's not really negative, but it might be something to cast some light on some areas that people are just not thinking about.
Steve, that applies more to a middle school and a high school than it would an elementary school.
And a lot of, because it's athletics and those kind of things, for sure. Yes, for sure. But there are, as a former elementary principal at one of the, at the time, bigger schools in there were things that I felt like we could do that a small elementary school may not be able to do. The way we used gifted to pull out all the gifted math students, and they worked while the rest of the kids, lower class size in there, they stay with the teacher and they got math. So you basically added a teacher to the grade level. They don't have that luxury of doing that in this kind of situation. So there are things like that that we can look at, because again, like Dr. Thor said, I mean, we get no joy sitting here and listening to it, and I appreciate the passion that people have for their community and that. If I still had kids in school and I could get them into an elementary school that had 200 kids, that'd be great. But that just wasn't the reality of it. And So while I understand that passion and appreciate it, I want them to understand that it's not personal. It's not, we don't want to get somebody or whatever. It's purely looking at what is best for the school district of Oconee County, the whole group, because I'm sure the folks at Ravenel would like to be in and out of traffic in 5 minutes, but they're not, because they got 525 kids. I'm sure Northside, dismissing on 3 sides would, like to have a better way to do that. We can't offer that for everybody, and it's hard to look at these numbers and say we're being fiscally responsible if we don't at least bring the numbers out to light.
Mr. Hamby, I did have one thing, and this is not something that you have to answer tonight. You and Jay might need to go home and really work on this for a couple months. But what I have found in some of the misunderstanding of the budget, that they say, now our budget is, 124 million, and there were no savings. So in 2013, the county local tax revenue was roughly 40 million that we were asking for our taxpayers to come from Oconee County. Currently, it is 49.7. So we're looking at in 10 years, less than $10 million. Had things been different before we changed the high school, and consolidated into a high school, promised the savings, 10 years ago, how much more would it have been if we'd have kept both schools open? And now, where we're at today in this conversation is, in 10 years, what will that 49.7 really be if we don't pay attention to the 1.3 difference? So I'm, again, not a conversation for tonight, just.
That's some, I hadn't had that kind of homework in a while.
I know. But if we're talking about taxpayers and what our county people are gonna, afford.
Yeah, right, and here's what I think we all understand. Every time we walk into the grocery store now, we're paying way more than we did 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago, 2013. So that's why when I got this, I really liked the way, instead of saying savings at this point, we're just saying, okay, here's what the difference would be. We would have to ask for 1.359 million more, then maybe we would not have had to if we kept it open versus closed.
The term I've always preferred or heard used that I really gravitated towards was cost avoidance. And again, these are not, this doesn't indicate that the SRO's compensation is that amount there. What we did is we took the average. So the average salary, the average benefits, fringe, all of those things. And, many of these people will be different people by the time this comes to fruition. But that's the best way to compare apples to apples in one column and another column.
But we can look and try to get the information. I don't know, because of the way the state has oftentimes unfunded mandates, or the state will fund a percentage of it, and they'll do it for this group and not this group.
I'm just
how
curious,
accurate
it would have been 60 million, by now.
Right.
Instead of 49.7. If there's going to be a $10 million over the cost of 10 years, that's substantial to our taxpayers.
Right.
And I would also just like to say, the whole reason this came up is because Kiwi's in need of a building. Mm-hmm. We don't sit back in a room and figure out how we can get at one community over another. It's just that the only opportunity to do something like this is when you're replacing a building. I think everyone agrees that Kiwi needs a facility upgrade. So that if we don't build a new Kiwi large enough to accommodate, then future boards and future administrations aren't going to have the opportunity, because then it would not make any financial sense. So that's what's precipitating this conversation.
Steve, this is a little different question.
Sure.
But do we know how many students in Oconee County that would normally come to the public school system are now in private schools or homeschooled?
I can get you that number.
Can we get a number on that?
I'll get that from Ms. Hughes, and I'll email it to you tomorrow. She has to do a report, I don't know.
I think it's about 6%.
I may can find it now.
It may have gone from 5 a few years ago to 6% now. It's not.
Yeah, I'll look and see, but they have to, because they have to register with her. Now, there's an outlier or 10, that are out there that don't, but they have to register with her to let us know. So I can get that, and she has to send that form into the State Department. So it was due back, end of September, and she sent it?
We'll have that.
Yeah, I'll get
The
that.
fact that we talked about 10,000 students, I mean, that has been in this county for 40 years or more, I guess.
Nationwide, the pandemic did drive more students to homeschooling.
It did.
That's not unique to Oconee County, but it's not such a significant difference that it's drastically affected our enrollment.
Well, and the biggest change from, so like if we're talking 15 years ago, 10,500 or whatever, is the addition of 19 4K programs has given us 380, approximately 380 kids. So if you look at our K through 12, which, I looked at the first 10 days of school, we were just a smidge below 10,000. If you take out 4K and the 3-year-old programs, the PIP programs, and some of those that we have for our kids with special needs. So we were in the 98, 75 range with just K through 5. K through 12, sorry, 5K through 12.
In doing a little research for some of our reaccreditation stuff, I'm looking through some old board minutes, and in the middle 60s, I found a note in a board meeting minute, so they were celebrating enrollment of 9720. So that kind of puts perspective that we really haven't changed size-wise.
Any other? Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And you'll see there RFP for consultant to review special education. And I just kind of want to clarify what this is. The bottom line is, for a couple of years, you've heard us talking about potential over-identification, whereas statewide and nationwide, the percent of students who have IEPs is in the 13, maybe 14% range. We've been over 20 for a number of years, which just from pure mathematics could be as many as 600 students that are over-identified in our county. There could be a good reason for that, but we're not making what I'd call significant progress, and we would like to get some help just looking at it. This is not in any way, shape, or form to put a target on the back of our special ed teachers or anybody that works with special education in our district. This is just an RFP that we would put out to a consulting company that would come in and study our district. You can see there the organization of our department, eligibility and referral process, which to me is a pretty big deal. Cost analysis, record keeping, just a holistic view of our special education policies and procedures, and just give us guidance. But like I said, not targeting the great things that happen in our schools at all, and the support that's given to our teachers. That's not what we're looking at. We want to see, are there things that we can do as a district that we could possibly identify that maybe are different from some neighboring districts or other districts across our state and country that, we could learn from, that we might could get our special ed identification closer to the mean from across the state and nation. This company could come in and say, the superintendent's not doing this. The superintendent could improve in this way, or the instruction department could improve in their support of special ed this way. So it's not, it wouldn't be aimed at any group or person, simply an outside view of how we're doing special ed in Oconee County.
Mike, has the criteria for identifying these students changed? Because years ago, I mean, I was directly involved with it.
Yes.
And we had educational evaluators and psychologists, and they had a specific criteria for each category. And if the student was being tested and they fell into that, then they were placed.
Yes.
Either in a self-contained class or in the where they were in and out of the class.
Right. And there are specific criteria. Those criteria have changed over the years, and I think Dr. Bright's here. They're going to change again, and in the next few years, the state's moving to a new.
Yes, right now there is a draft proposal for standards for determining, it's standards for evaluation and eligibility determination. It's called a SEED document. And in the past, we've had different models for determining eligibility, pattern of strengths and weaknesses. There has been a discrepancy model, looking at a discrepancy between IQ and performance. So there have been different models over the years that have been used, but something our state is looking at is response to intervention through like MTSS processes that are in school districts. And so if we are using a response to intervention model, which that is what is being considered across our state, then the criteria would change. But our criteria has been the same since the last SEED document that came out, and has been out for a few years now.
So those things do change, but I still think the biggest discrepancy to me is that 20% versus 13-14%. And Mr. Schickling has, in a previous work experience, been a part of an RFP like this where, you know, a big consulting firm with experience and expertise in this comes in and does an assessment. We just wanted to make you aware we'd like to put the RFP out, but it'll probably be a significant amount of money, so we would get approval from you before we ever awarded a contract or anything like that. But we felt like this kind of went along with our board goals to evaluate and just get more information and see if there are things we can change that might get us a little closer to some averages. Because that's, you know, if you think, again, it is, Mr. Smith said this afternoon, it is an objective statement to say we're about 35% higher than the state average for identification of IEP students. That's a significant number. Significant number. 600 students, and then you figure out education, I mean, just the staffing we put in. I mean, we're talking $1.5 to $2 million a year.
But I guess my question is, are we following the criteria now to identify them? And if we are, maybe we're right and they're wrong.
It's possible, and a company could come in and tell us that as well. But there is, in a human process, which evaluating a student is a human process, there is some subjectivity in it.
Oh, yes.
And we just want some outside eyes to come in and possibly give us some guidance on this. So not a gotcha, but all of us being transparent enough to say, is there any process or procedure that we need to work on to try to get a little better?
Yeah, special education is probably the most regulated and litigated, fortunate for us, not in our district, but nationwide, elements of education. And it accounts for 250 plus of our staff members and 2,000 students. And so, this is not, like many RFPs we do have that are mandated, this one is not. And it's a very subjective process. So again, this is more of a inviting, there are entities that do this nationwide, inviting them to come in, you can interview them, you can place individuals on that committee, board members of our departments, and then say, okay, what type of process would you employ to do this? What type of data would you look at? What type of report or recommendations would you render? And if there's not trust that that's going to be actionable or worthwhile, then you don't engage in a contract. So it's more to see, is it worthwhile to engage in that conversation, and then comes checking references and the quality of work they've done and who would be on the engagement, and all those things are vetted before an award is made.
I think this is a great idea. I just left the classroom a year ago, and throughout my career and my life, I have been all involved in this. So I think this is a great idea. I do want to ask you, the MTSS procedures, they are separate from special ed.
They are.
Am I correct in that? And so actually, where they might go hand in hand, MTSS is not a step-through process to get an IEP. Am I correct?
It shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's most certainly not. And so in our district, we've really done a lot of work the past 3 years to make sure folks know that those are two separate systems. However, the MTSS process could eventually inform special education, and also our special education students are a part of the MTSS process. So as we look at providing students with more support, you have your tier 1, which is everybody in the classroom, tier 2, and then you have tier 3. Our special education students are also a part of getting all of that support in tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. So it's most certainly a separate thing. However, for our general education kids that make it to tier 3, so they're getting one-on-one support and they're not making progress, that most certainly is an indicator for us to do a little dig a little deeper, there we go, to see if there's something that we're missing, because maybe they do need to go through that evaluation process, but they run kind of parallel to each other, and we're not dipping. So just because you have MTSS going on does not mean we're identifying kids as a part of that process. In fact, we're trying to make sure kids aren't getting identified and that we're giving them good support in hopes of determining this is their skill deficit. Now we're supporting that and we're seeing progress versus just saying this kid can't do it, right? And there must be a problem. So
I got one more question. And in this whole, looking at all this, excuse me, will we look at how we handle 504 accommodations as
thank
well?
you. And I'm very glad you asked that question, because I was supposed to tell you that and I didn't. They told me this afternoon, make sure you mention that we would make 504 a part of this.
Because when I read this, I thought, okay, we need a number 9 right there, 504 accommodations.
And when we've looked at 504s just this year, we've seen a tremendous increase in the number of 504s. So we're kind of concerned about that too. Our number of 504s is significantly higher than averages as well, so we would want to include that in this process. So we would like to put this RFP out, and again, before we would award any kind of contract, we come back to you for approval on that. But we'll probably do that here soon, because our goal would be, if at all possible, to get this second semester so that next school year we can kind of start the year.
It is a very, there's a lot of qualitative information. If you look at what the firms do, they do focus groups with our staff, our administrators, community, and Mrs. Holder, to your point, that they even look at, I in a prior life was a classroom teacher, and so, good tier instruction, every teacher is a special education teacher, because in tier 1 instruction, you're practicing inclusion with students that have IEP needs and accommodations that you're working on. So, they will look at that too, if that's part of what we ask them to do, and that's negotiated in that interview process.
all right.
Yes, and this is just to keep myself out of trouble. Last year, we asked you about the food trucks during American Education Week, to thank our staff, and you guys thought that was a good idea, and we implemented it, but we didn't quite follow procurement code. So I got a letter that said you didn't follow procurement code. We want to follow procurement code this year, and I think y'all got a lot of positive feedback by providing a food truck lunch for our staff at each school building. We'd like to do that again, and I can avoid getting the slap on the wrist if y'all will actually approve the food truck purchases. So this is a $10, Ms. Bay. It's $10 to $12 is what we've told the food trucks that they would come. So we'll have, during American Education Week, we've got, I think, 4 or 5 different trucks. So we'll go to each school, and our principals know to make sure everybody gets at least a half hour to come outside, get a free meal, enjoy lunch that day. Compliments of the board in honor of American Education Week. But if y'all would approve that as a planned purchase, then that'll meet our procurement code requirements.
Any discussion, any questions? All right, I will entertain the motion to approve the food truck purchases during American Education Week.
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Great. All right, and finally, we have an action item. Second reading, final approval on policy CCA organizational chart, and you have that in front of you. I don't know that it needs to be addressed. We've seen it several times. Anybody have any questions? Any need? All right, then if I could get a motion to approve on second reading, final approval, policy CCA organizational.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion about it? All in favor? All right, board member comments. Does anyone have anything that they would like to address at the end of this meeting? Okay. There being nothing then, it is time for executive session. If I could have a motion to go into executive session for personnel items, employment recommendations, and changes.
Can I say one thing? I know it's some public comment, but just from Gary, can I just have 2 minutes?
We're right in the middle of a motion.
Before you, I know how much comment procedure goes, but you haven't closed it yet.
We need to finish this
We
motion.
need to finish this motion to go to executive session. All right, all in favor? All right.
I have 2 minutes. I'm so closing microphone and everything. They understand the difference between operating and capital budgets. They have more than 188 students. They do have after-school programs like chorus and sports. It's just because you have the money, though, that doesn't mean you have to spend it. Usually does need to spend. There's no reason for clothes and a student that is perfectly 24 years old that is a good student. I know you can't give everybody a neighborhood school, but you can rebound. And I just want to tell you what the rumor is, when y'all say that you hadn't already purchased the land, but the rumor is that you have purchased the land. And
I think Mr. Handy addressed that before.
Yeah, we can't purchase the land, we can't.
Not purchase any.
comments that y'all said that's not true in here.
I encourage you to sign up for public comment next time.
We didn't have those things. We do have those things. And we have over 200.
Well, you do, I said K through 5. You have 201 if we count
You didn't
4K.
say which grades. You said that to my sister.
I preface everything with, we allocate teachers on K through 5. We don't allocate teachers for 4K or for PIP or that. Everything is kindergarten through 5th grade, and I know because I wrote it down.
And I knew I should have said comments, but that was just what y'all said after that. And I don't mean to be upset, but
Thank you.
we need to speak. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
You know what we should do?